Yeah, we're on page Chaf. We are in the middle of the Maimah Ve'ela Mishpatim. What we learned yesterday was V'zerati li es Beis Yisrael Zera Adam V'zera Behema. There are two kinds of neshamas. There are neshamas of Atzilus, which are very, very few, Yechides Gula, which are the neshamas that are connected to a very high level, both when they are Lamaila and even when they come down Lamata here in this world, neshamas of Atzilus. Then there are neshamas of Biyah. The neshamas that when they come down into this world, they don't have the das, they don't have the same ability, the same sensitivity, the same kind of connection. We're on page Chaf. The same level of connection that they have Lamaila. The Rebbe brought what we learned yesterday. The Rebbe said that there's haskashrus, hakara, v'hargosha, to connect, to recognize, and then to feel. That's to say that how a person connects to something, to the point that it affects him emotionally as well. So the neshamas here in this world, the ones that are on the level of Zera Behema, as much as they learn, even if they have the full Chochmah and Bina, but their reality, their premise of existence is Olam Hazeh. So as much as they understand, they can't connect to Elokus and have the recognition and feeling the way the neshamas of Zera Adam have. Let's continue inside. This is the difference between those neshamas that are called the neshamas of Atzilus, shehem zera Adam, that come from a seed that's called Zera Adam, v'neshamas di Biyah shehem zera Behema. Then the neshamas that are here in Biyah that are called Zera Behema, page Chaf, that are called Zera Behema. Ba'olam is Biyah habitl rak bitl yesh. In the worlds of Biyah, even a person that is serving Hashem and is working hard on himself to understand and to learn and to grow, but the maximum that the neshamas of Biyah could come to is bitl yesh. Bitl yesh is where the premise of the person's existence is that I'm here, I exist. Now, in my existence that I exist, the Eibishter controls everything, the Eibishter creates everything, the Eibishter is mechayim mi b'chol rega. So there's a bittul there. There's a tremendous bittul. There's a lot of work that goes into bittul ayesh. But still, in bittul ayesh, the mitzias of the person cannot become completely absorbed and consumed in Hashem's existence. Haino, which means shagam sheyeshna inyan asaga belokus b'seichel. On this level, where a person comprehends and understands the greatness of Hashem with his intellect, the yoidim shekach tzarich liyischulu. And therefore, once a person understands and has the perspective in the seichel that this is what should be, however, practically the application of everything a person knows and everything that he learns, when it comes to bringing it into his existence, applying it to himself and connecting, he could only connect on a level of bittul yesh. Page Chaf. We're on page Chaf. It's only on a level of bittul yesh. What does this mean? Whatever idea they have, there's nothing stopping any person to learn and to know and to have knowledge on the highest level, including learning things that are beyond the level of bittul yesh, where the person is learning about things that are totally batal to the Eibishter on the level of bittul b'metzias, even more than bittul yesh. But when you apply it to yourself, the person is a metzias in this world, and it doesn't get accepted by the person. Doesn't affect him in the way that he himself should be elevated and connect and be transformed based on what he just learned. Because to have the ability to connect and to truly recognize and feel what you're learning, that's a whole different thing. To know the concept is one thing. I was going to say it's easy, but not necessarily is it so easy. But even if a person does know the concept, but to apply it and to make that transformation based on what he knows, if the neshama doesn't have, the ruchni is the sensitivity, the level of the neshama does not have that level of connection, so then it doesn't connect on that level. It doesn't feel it. Therefore, we find also regarding the malachim that they are referred to as chayis and behemoths, beasts and animals. Also, the malachim, even malachim that serve Hashem follow every order of Hashem, don't have any bechira of their own. They're pre-programmed, so to speak, to fulfill exactly what Hashem wants. But even malachim are not completely bottled b'metzias. There's a malach that has a teva of chesed. There's a malach that has a teva of gvura. There's a malach that has a teva of teferes. Each malach has its nature. So the malach retains his entity as a metzias of something, and he fulfills Hashem's will within the framework of his metzias. So even a malach that has a recognition of who Hashem is and follows Hashem's orders, still their bittul is also on the level of bittul ayesh.
So they have das tachten, not that.
Das tachten, correct. When it says over here that the neshamas of biyah, behemoths are lacking das, it refers to das alien. That's correct. Ma bittul da atzilos, but then you have a completely different level. The bittul that there is in the world of atzilos, so bittul b'metzias. This is a different kind of bittul. This is not a bittul where the person's metzias remains and he's mevatel himself to the Eibishter. Nothing remains. Completely bottled b'metzias. Over here, the premise of existence is the Oyer Ein Sof that shines through. Atzilus is that place, and it's the last world that the Oyer Ein Sof that comes from before Tzimtzum extends and continues, and the last place where it shines is in the place of Atzilus. So what is the whole entity of the world of Atzilus? A place where the source, where Oyer Ein Sof shines through in the metzias of the person, or the metzias of the world, and therefore the premise of existence over there is not, says da Welt, and now we have to start thinking how we're mevatel ourselves. The premise of the world of Atzilus is that Oyer Ein Sof's presence is felt everywhere. In the place of Atzilus, it's not that the person is thinking and he understands and he comes to a conclusion that this is the truth and this is what's right. That the person is completely absorbed in the revelation of the Eibishter that there's in the world of Atzilus. So a neshama that has in its capacity that level of sensitivity of Atzilus and that level of connection understands, learns, and whatever he understands, he connects to. It resonates with him. It hits his heart. You have sometimes a person learns something and you feel like it doesn't talk to him. He's indifferent to what he's learning. And then you have a person that learns the same thing. Could be he doesn't understand it as great as the other person, but he feels connected to it. He feels like he's getting absorbed in what he's learning. He feels like it talks to him. That's even bepashtus by people that are within the same wavelength. Over here, he's saying even more so that there's neshamas da'atzilus and neshamas debiyah that are divided into two categories. The neshamas debiyah are capable of chokhmah and bina, understanding and learning and knowing the truth on the highest level. But to really connect, to really apply it, so there's something there that blocks, because the neshamas and biyah have that separation that biyah represents. Outside of Atzilus, there's a tzimtzum, there's a separation, so that it's hard for them to actually connect and recognize that this applies to me and to actually make a transformation. The neshamas of Atzilus learn and get absorbed in what they're learning, become bottled and included in the idea that they're learning.
So what happened to the Dor of Moshe when it says it was Dor of Atzilus, and that...
And what?
They made a mistake. They made
okay, so good. Say there. Okay, it's a good question. I mean, that's not a question what he's saying here. That's the question on the Maamar that we learned in Tavshin Chaf. Right. When it says that Moshe Rabbeinu's Doyer was a Doyer of Atzilus, it doesn't mamish mean kipshutay that his entire generation had neshamas Atzilus. It's not the pshat over there. The general setup of Klal Yisrael and that kufa that they were in a midbar, secluded from the rest of society, was a setup of Atzilus, in sync with Moshe Rabbeinu's level. But there were neshamas debiyah. They weren't on the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. There was also Erev Rav that caused a lot of trouble, yeah. But it wasn't only the Erev Rav. That was also Kairach and other individuals. So that the reason why these neshamas of Atzilus that have that spiritual sensitivity and are able to connect are referred to as Zera Adam, because Adam is begematria ma. The word Adam is ma, which means bittul, absolute bittul. Sheyesh be'amina bittul haba yedei das. They are able to become bottled, totally bottled to Hashem through their understanding, but not understanding, or really recognition, connection, and feelings. That to really connect. So when the pasuk says kisikna v'divri, and it says that in a singular term, referring to Moshe Rabbeinu, shuhu amamshech b'chinas das b'neshamas zera beime. Moshe Rabbeinu, he is the one that's the intermediary between the Eibishter and Yidden. because he is the one that brings that ability to connect and that ability to feel to every single Yid, although a Yid is on the level of Zera Behema. That is what the Rebbe is. The Rebbe brings the connection and that feeling to every single person. Okay, the Rebbe continues, the question though is, how is it possible to bring this level of understanding, recognition, and this level of connection to those neshamas that are on the level of Zera Behema? It's like a human being trying to communicate with an animal. What's the mode of communication? You can train them, you can do different things to tame them, to train them, but that's not what we're talking about over here. Moshe Rabbeinu should be mamshich from his reality, from his das, and from his sensitivity of his neshama, and infuse that into the neshamas of Biyah that are on the level of Behema. What happens over here? How does this work? So this is what the pasuk here says: Ki sikne eved ivri, that you acquire an eved ivri, a Jewish slave. So the Rebbe is medayik the ivri, the word ivri, hu al shem be'ever anar yashva v'seichem. The word ivri, which is not the common term that Yidden are referred to in Torah. Usually it's Bnei Yisrael. It doesn't say Kisikne Eved mi Bnei Yisrael. It says Kisikne Eved Ivri. Why over here does it use this term? Because Ivri comes from the fact that the pasuk says Be'ever Anar Yashva V'Seichem. Your forefathers, the Avis, they lived in Eretz Yisrael on the other side of the river. Hainu, what does this mean? L'mayla mebchinas nohar. The source of where the neshamas of the Avis come from is from a place which is on the other side or higher than the level that's referred to as a river. So the river is a mashal, and the neshamas of the Avis come from higher than this place that's called Nohar. What's the pshat in this? Regarding the Nohar, a river, it says, there's a river that flows out from Eden, lahashkis esagan, and spills into the gan, into the garden, and gives the water of the river comes into the garden. And then, umisham yiparid, from there begins the separation, which is the beginning of the worlds of Biyah. So there's three levels he's talking about over here. There's Nohar, there's the Eden, and then there's the Nohar, which spills out from the Eden, and that spills into the gan, into the garden. And then from there it goes further out, there's a pirud into Biyah. Move on. The word Nohar that it says before, Be'ever Anor, that the Avis come from the other side, from before the river, higher than the river. The shadish of their neshamas is from a place which is higher than any separation. Ever Anor is even higher than the river itself. The river in the pasuk, again, as I said, there's the levels over here. The river comes from Eden, which is higher from the place of separation. Not only are the Avis, the shadish of their neshama is from the Nahar, which is higher than the Pirud, they come even higher than the Nahar from the Eden itself. So pasuk in Yeshua, where he's telling them that you have to remember where you come from. You have to remember your source, you have to remember your yichus, your background, where you come from. And he's telling the Yidden, Be'ever Anar Yashva V'Seichem, meaning, Shakol Neshamas Yisrael, that ultimately all Neshamas of Yidden, although we divided it before into two categories, but in its source, all Yidden, Gam Neshamas Shebebchina Zera Behema, even those Neshamas, when they descend into a guf, into this world, are on the level of Zera Behema, but Hine Shorsham, Hu Bebchinas Ever Anar Shalamayla Afilim Bebchinas Nahar. The source from where they come from is from a level of Ever Anar, in the place where the Neshamas of all of the Avis come from. He's not telling them history. You should know that the Avis came from this place. If this is the place where the Avis come from, and we are descendants, and we inherit the koyach of their neshama. So ultimately, in the essence of the neshama of every yid, he has that capacity. He has that shayrish inside of him, that he's able to connect to these kind of levels. And in its source, when the neshama originates from where it comes from, yeshlem das gadol moed. The neshama has a very high level of connection and sensitivity and feeling. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu is able to draw and reveal within the neshama of Yidden also the das that he has, the level of sensitivity that he has as well. In other places, the Rebbe says that you see this. This is also proven by the fact that every morning we say in the Birchas HaShachar, Neshama shenasata bi tahayrihi atavrasa titzarta atanafachta bi. So when you say tahayrihi, what does that refer to? That refers to the fact that the source of our neshama comes from Atzilus, and even higher than Atzilus. Because after that you say atavrasa. How could there be a bria, and then before the bria, the neshama is pure, tahayra? If it doesn't exist yet, if there's no existence of the neshama, there's nothing to be pure. So how can we say tahayrihi before you say barasa? So the answer is because the neshama exists on the level of bria. That's atavarasa. But the source of the neshama is before that. It comes from Atzilus, which is higher than bria, and then even higher than Atzilus. Every single Yid says this every morning. It's not something that's said only from Moshe Rabbeinu and Yechidus Gula. So every single Yid makes this statement to remind himself every morning when you wake up and you feel your physical body, and you feel the life you have, and you think that your neshama is on a very low level, so a person has to remind himself every morning, the shayrish of my neshama l'mayla comes from tahayrihi, which is very high. So the whole distinction that there is between Zera Adam and Zera Behema isn't the hishtalshalus of the neshama. Once it comes out of the shayrish. The hishtalshalus, the neshama evolves from one level to the next, so the neshama da'atzilos, Lamaila and Lamata, it's the same. It doesn't get affected by the Ishtalshalos. On the Neshama of Biyah, it comes from the same source, but it goes through the Ishtalshalos and it gets affected by each world that it enters into. It's mislabish and it gets formulated by that world it enters into, and it comes down into this world and it feels very disconnected from its source. It doesn't have the same intensity and the same feeling that it had Lamaila. But the emes is, the shayrish of every person's neshama, in the essence of the neshama, has that connection. So Moshe Rabbeinu is reconnecting the neshama lamata to the shayrish that it has lamayla. So when it says over here, the term evedivri, that Moshe Rabbeinu reveals in every yid, that ivri, the source from where he came from Ever Anar. What's the term it uses? When Moshe Rabbeinu reveals this, it says sikna. Moshe Rabbeinu acquires a person. What's the significance of the expression of acquiring? Ki sikna daika. Shakinyan, the term to acquire something, eina havayis davar chadash, is not creating something from new. And it's not even making a change in an object, formulating it, taking a raw material, wood, and turning it into a chair, a table. We're not talking about making any changes at all. When you acquire something, the object is there exactly the way you desire it. It's just that it's not in the right possession. It has to be moved from one location, from one possession to another possession. This is exactly true also regarding the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu reveals in every Yid the potential that he has in his neshama above in its source. Moshe Rabbeinu is not coming and teaching Yidden, influencing them, and creating something new in them, or formulating them. No. Moshe Rabbeinu reveals the source of the essence of who the person is. He reveals the source of the essence of the Yid as he is in its source of Ever Anar, higher than the Pirud, before the Neshama came down all those levels where it became separated and formulated, another level. Moshe Rabbeinu connects back and traces back that connection for the person to be able to draw that energy here below.
But Titikna implies that it's a cost.
That what?
It's a cost. You have to earn money. And the earn money is kesef.
But who's the one? Who's the one that that pays the cost? Kisikne though is Moshe Rabbeinu that's acquiring. It says Kisikne Loshen Yachid. So Moshe Rabbeinu takes the cost upon himself, and he leaves for us a little bit that it shouldn't be Named Chsufa, so he leaves for us to do something also. But the Rebbe takes everything upon himself.
Moshe Rabbeinu was rich. Moshe Rabbeinu was a rich man.
From the Psilas of the Luchas, it says he became rich, so he has what to pay. He has a few sources of riches. If you remember, we learned in the Mayim of Basel Gani Tafshin Yer Aleph. It says over there that the Mittel Rebbe showed how his hands were shriveled, his wrist was shriveled from all the things that Chassidim came into him. Why was his hand shriveled? They came into him, and he gave them a tikkun shuvah, and he told them that they have to work and fast and do this and do that. Why is his hand shriveled? From listening to people and advising them. Because a Rebbe takes everything upon himself. In order that you shouldn't feel ashamed by what's going on, so it shouldn't be Named Chsufa, so it gives you something to do. Right? So the Kisikna is the Rebbe.
It says kitikna eved.
Yeah.
Eved is like acquiring an add-on.
Kind of Eved kind of Adon
because he's
taking work. He's taking work upon himself.
The king
Absolutely.
into the nation.
This is accomplished. Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that has this kayach. So now we appreciate more what Moshe Rabbeinu accomplishes. It's not only that Moshe Rabbeinu himself, his neshama came down lamata. It exists. His neshama exists here in this world and never gets exposed and involved and engaged with the world. Wherever he goes, he brings Atzilus along with him. That's one chiddush. That's Zer Adam. But by Moshe Rabbeinu, and that could be true, apparently, based on what he said before in the Maamar, that's true not necessarily only about a Rebbe. There could be Yichides Gula in a generation that have this kayach of neshama Atzilus, that the neshama comes down lamata and it doesn't get affected by the hishtalshlus and by the yiridah. The chiddush of a Moshe Rabbeinu was much further than that. That not only does he not get affected, those neshamas that befedish were affected and do get disconnected, so to speak, of their source, he's able to bridge that gap for them. He's able to make that connection of what's the highest in their source and bring it here below into a place where there is a separation, where there is a pirut. That connection, to make that's only Moshe Rabbeinu. That's only one person in every generation. So ve'inyan zen nasai de Moshe dafke ki gam Moshe hu madrege zu devra nohar Moshe Rabbeinu, source of his neshama, comes from the level of Evera Nohar shezeu shenikra Moshe al shem kimin amayim mishisiu. Moshe Rabbeinu was pulled out of the water sheshar shem min amayim mishmita rishayna. He comes from the water, which is called in the Isis of Kabbalah, it's brought in Torah, from the water that comes from Shmita Rishayna, that's a previous existence, but what it refers to is a higher reality, way beyond the reality of the existence of our world that we see here. Even though the point over here is that he came from the water, so why wouldn't his name imply the water that he came from? If that's the world and the place, the level that he came from, why not that be hinted in his name? Elarak mishisihu. What is hinted in his name? The fact that he's pulled out of the water. Shiam shachasim in amayim. That he originates and is pulled out of the water. Mayim hints to the fact that the source of Moshe Rabbeinu comes from Chachma. When it says Mishisiu, it doesn't mean that he came from the water. He came from the water, but Mishisiu, he's being pulled and drawing from a much higher place than Chachma. Move on. From this we understand the source of the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu is higher than the other neshamas that we mentioned before that are Zera Adam. So there's two categories. There's Zera Adam and Zera Behema. Zera Adam comes from Atzilus. A neshama that comes from Atzilus does not have the ability that Moshe Rabbeinu has to bridge the gap between two opposites. Das nicht. A neshama that Atzilus has the ability to enter into the world and to bring the Atzilus along with him, and that the mitzias of the Tachten is a chatchila not teifes makim. But to actually bring that kayach of Elokus into a place of separation, for that you have to have a higher source even than Atzilus. That's the kayach of Moshe Rabbeinu, that he combines two opposites because the source of his neshama is on a higher level. He doesn't have any of those limitations, not of Zera Adam and not of Zera Behema. So this is a third level. It's higher even than the categories of the neshamas that we spoke about before. If you look over here in Order 18, it says Kain Hu b'Zecharim Achodim. That this last point over here, it's not clear if this is the way the Rebbe said it or not, because it's a big chiddush the Rebbe is saying it. If you look in Likutei Torah, not in Likutei Torah, sorry. If you look in Torah Oyer, No, it's not. Not this Maamar. If you look in Torah Oyer, he talks over there about Zera Adam, Zera Behema. There are two levels of neshamas. That's it. Obviously, within these categories, there are many, many levels. In Zera Adam, there are many levels, and in Zera Behema, there's many levels. But in general, we divide it into two categories, not more. The Rebbe is saying that a Rebbe is a third category for itself. That level that could combine two opposites, draw from Zera Adam into Zera Behema, is because he comes from a place that's higher than Zera Adam and higher than Zera Behema. That's the chiddush that the Rebbe is saying over here. It's what?
He's from Tal.
Taihu, from the Shmita Rishayna that he said before, or even higher than that. Yeah. Shakman is very.
When it goes into Yiddish, like it says, Maved Taka